We'll welcome anyone that comes in late. We're going to go ahead and get started. I only have 45 minutes, so I want to utilize every minute of that. What I'd like to do first, I think foremost, let's just open with a word of prayer. Just bow your head with me. Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity just to be present here at this annual conference and just discuss the benefits of introducing and bringing a recovery ministry into the church. Father, just be with our time together. Just bless the hearts of the folks that are here. May they be open-minded, and just I pray that there's a takeaway for them as they leave this room. And I just pray a blessed weekend for everyone. And I pray this, Father, in your heavenly name. Amen. Amen. Okay, so my name is Randy Gobely. I am on staff at Damascus Friends Church. I will officially be ordained in about... Pastor John came up to me and said there's no turning back now.
That's right. It's done deal.
But at some point this evening, in about
Congratulations.
8 hours. And really, all the hard work has been done. So now it's the easy part, just getting up and being recognized. But yeah, I'm just honored to be here. I've been involved with Celebrate Recovery for 14 years at Damascus Friends Church. My wife Laura and I have been leading that ministry for about 12 years. And so through the years, just been blessed and just have a wealth of knowledge about this ministry. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity this morning to discuss about all the things that Celebrate Recovery has to offer. I have three wonderful children, and my children say that Celebrate Recovery is my favorite child. And though that's not quite true, this ministry is very dear and near to my heart. And I hope that the reason you have decided to attend here this morning is because you see the need for something like this in your church. Because the need is great. It's greater than ever before because we need to help the lost, we need to help the broken, and also those that are in need. And so today I'm going to talk about a recovery ministry that has much to offer today's church. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Imagine a child that grows up in a dysfunctional home with alcoholism, abuse, and neglect. What happens to that child when he or she grows up? The answer is much of the same, because people are creatures of their habitat. Many get caught up in the cycle of dysfunction, and the cycle continues for generations until the cycle gets broken. So this scenario is a tough barrier to break down. But through the ministry of Celebrate Recovery, your church can equip a team and have at your fingertips a type of gathering that can free people from dysfunctional behavior and win souls to Christ. And isn't that what the church is all about? My father was a raging alcoholic. My grandfather was a raging alcoholic. And I'm quite certain that my great-grandfather was one just the same. So what chance did that leave me? Well, let me say, though I'm standing here this morning, I actually one-upped them because I added a drug addiction to that mix. But God.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
But Celebrate Recovery, but my pastor, and but my wife. You see, it took a team. You really can't do it on your own. And through the saving, healing power of Jesus Christ, we can find freedom, but He equips us with a team. And that's what Celebrate Recovery is all about, building a support team, a network of accountability and structure so that we can find the ultimate freedom that we're looking for. I'd like to show you briefly a little bit of my story. My family bought a bar when I was 6 years old. We moved off of a farm. My parents believed that business was going to give us kids a better lifestyle. I'm not sure anyone really knew what exposing a 6-year-old child to a bar environment really was going to entail. And so our house was connected to that establishment, and I saw a lot of drunkenness and corruption at an early age. By 9 years old, I was sipping beer from the tap. By 12 years old, I was smoking pot, and by 16, I was in the harder liquor and heavier drugs. And all the dysfunction that was wrapped around living in a bar, gambling, unfaithfulness, prostitution, drugs and alcohol, fighting, it was just, that became my life. That became my normal. And I just got exposed to that and just carried it into my lifestyle. I started dating my wife, my high school sweetheart. We started dating. I met her in junior high. We started dating in high school. When we got out of school, we had to get married. We had 3 children. And after 10 years of me continuing to drink and do drugs and be unfaithful to our marriage vows, we got divorced. And we were separated for 3 years, and in that time I felt I was free to do with my life whatever I wanted. I was driving as an over-the-road truck driver, didn't care if I came home to see my kids, and just really living a very unfruitful life to the point that I no longer wanted to live. Entertaining suicidal thoughts and just feeling I wasted and burnt every bridge that I had up an avenue of anyone to truly care for me. Through an event with my then 11-year-old daughter, God pierced my heart. And it really just took me being with her for a short spell that I did come around, that she just poured out her heart that how she hated her parents being apart, and that she'd been praying that Jesus would put us back together. And that was the piercing of my heart. And I just vowed to her in that moment that I would quit the over-the-road job and I'd come home and I'd be available for them, but I didn't know no more than that, but I would just be around. In the course of coming home from that episode in 1992, I started attending church with my mom, and I gave my heart to the Lord in 1992. However, through some counseling and continued to go to church with the pastor, my ex-wife was counseling, we got remarried 3 years after the divorce. However, I simply fell back into my old ways. I got hanging around the wrong people, and I started drinking and using drugs again. I fell into unfaithfulness to the second marriage vows that we had made. And this lifestyle continued for 15 years. She didn't know what to do with me. She didn't want to get a divorce again. And I just had my own little secret, and I was just perfectly fine with the way I was living my life. Until Celebrate Recovery found its way to the doors of Damascus Friends Church in 2008. And when it did come to the door in 2008, they thought my wife and I could be a great asset to that ministry because of all the things we endured in our past. Little did anyone know what was still going on in my life. At a lower level, I wasn't full-blown in my addiction, but I was still in an addiction. And through the process of a 6-month training to start to launch this ministry at our church, our pastor was encouraging us to be praying for the lost and hurting souls that was going to come to Celebrate Recovery. And I became the first lost and hurting soul to be blessed by that, because I got so heavily convicted about everything I was doing. I knew God was surrounding me, but I never gave up the strongholds of my life. That I finally surrendered all. 2 weeks before we launched this amazing ministry, I confessed to my wife. I confessed to my pastor. So remember at the beginning I said, but God, but CR, but my pastor, but my wife. They became part of that team, that they continued to trust God with me, and they gave me an additional chance. Because I thought when I confessed that I would be shunned, asked to leave, and I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but the conviction was so heavy on my heart from God to confess all, I did it. Pastor John put me on a path of restitution. My wife said, Celebrate Recovery is going to fix you. That's the only thing she had to bank on. 30 years of marriage, she'd exhausted herself with everything else. But I think she just sensed that God was giving her the peace and the patience that she needed. And I'm so grateful for that, because, see, I come to understand that God prepared her forgiveness before he prepared my confession. Because I had burnt so many bridges with her that when I was going to confess this stuff to her again, there was no last chances. Unless Christ is involved in that, then there is last chances. So here I am, 14 years later, on staff at the church. I was able to quit driving truck. I'm a pastor of Celebrate Recovery, overseeing 2 ministries at 2 of our campuses. It's been an amazing journey. God has done amazing things in my life. Not only has he set me free from drug and alcohol and unfaithfulness and pornography and profanity and just bitterness and rage. Just the list goes on and on. But now, today, he's fine-tuning me with some of the littler things in life, like being pleasant to my wife always, even when she don't deserve it. That's a tall order. I mean, I'm still working on it. She will attest that I'm still not there yet, but that's the passion that God's giving me to just become as Christ-like as possible. So I'm grateful for the journey. And this is not about drug and addiction. It's about so much more. So that's what I want to start talking about in our conversation today. Really, it's not about my life, but just know that God has done miraculous things in my life. That's how ministry could potentially help you moving forward and all it has to offer. A little bit of the history about Celebrate Recovery. It was established at Saddleback Church in California in 1991 by a man named John Baker, who approached his then pastor Rick Warren and expressed his desire to incorporate more Jesus and a nurturing walk with the Lord to the traditional 12-step recovery program that were currently being offered. See, John Baker was a struggling alcoholic. He found that at his church, no one wanted to address his addiction. And while attending his AA meetings, no one really wanted to speak about Jesus Christ as their higher power. Hence the term faith-based recovery was born. John wrote a 13-page single-spaced letter outlining his vision that God had given him. He handed it to Rick Warren, and after Rick had read it, he said, "Great job, John. Go ahead and do it." Mm-hmm. The name Celebrate Recovery came to John on a reflective drive in his car. With the encouragement from Rick Warren and just 3 months preparation, the first Celebrate Recovery meeting was held in November of 1991. At the time, Saddleback Church did not have a building, so the first meeting was held at the Charter Hospital in Mission Viejo, California. In June of 1994, the ministry was continuing to grow and there was a need to provide resources for the participants. The Step Study Participant Guide was self-published and distributed from the Baker's Garage. The influence of the life-changing ministry grew, and in 1995 marked the year where other churches began Celebrate Recovery ministries for their congregations and their communities. In 1998, through an unforeseen encounter with a retired prison warden in New Mexico, John Baker discovered the Celebrate Recovery model was being used in local prisons. He visited that program 8 times over the course of the year. Prison ministry came to be a very responsive place for the Celebrate Recovery principles, as many incarcerated people are looking for healing from their hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Celebrate Recovery is now integrated into over 42 state prison systems, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Celebrate Recovery has grown to over 37,000 meetings being held in churches all over the world. In 2000, Saddleback formed the Celebrate Recovery Summit, an annual gathering to inform and educate church leaders the necessary aspects of hosting Celebrate Recovery meetings at their churches. Since that time, the summit has expanded to 2 3-day summit conferences per year, as well as offering 15 one-day conferences throughout the country each year. Our church, Damascus Friends Church, hosted a one-day training conference in 2018, and we will be hosting another one this October the 6th of this year. This would present a great opportunity for some of you interested in bringing a team to see firsthand a training session. In addition, Celebrate Recovery has implemented a network of state representatives. So my wife has a paper. If you want more information, you'll get a mailer about this one-day training conference that's coming up at our church in October. If you want to put your email address on that paper, we would gladly make sure that you get some information about this upcoming training conference. But as I said, they integrated state representatives from each state that are people that have been doing Celebrate Recovery, and they understand it, and they are there for your needs. If you're thinking about starting up a Celebrate Recovery ministry, they will be there to help you walk through every step and any question you may have, along with once you are up and running and you have launched your ministry, they continue to be an asset to you as needed. If you have a question, you have a concern, they're just going to be your go-to people that can help you navigate through some of the obstacles that you're dealing with to keep running smoothly. So as you can see, there are several resources available to assist in launching a Celebrate Recovery at your home church. CR offers a startup kit that includes various items that you would need to get your ministry going. In this startup kit is a leader's guide, and it's a book that just really walks through many of the trainings. It has all the lessons in it. It's got a wealth of information that as you are forming your team to launch the ministry, this is a valuable tool in print to help you continue forward and be successful. Also in that startup kit is a jump drive, and on this jump drive it has compelling testimonies of people from all over the country, mostly at Saddleback, that they have taped their testimonies, and you can use these testimonies on your testimony night to show them. They're very impactful. also on that jump drive, it talks about, gives you a lot of questions and answers about the 90-day startup strategy, exactly how to walk through what to do, forming your team, and it has a clear, easy to follow format of how the meetings would be addressed when you do them on your meeting night. It has step-by-step instruction on the first hand that I gave you. It's a picture of the funnel. This is kind of what a meeting night is. So it starts with the large group, is the top of the funnel. That middle section is when we divide into gender-specific open share groups where we discuss our hurts, habits, and hang-ups and the things we're struggling with today. And then the bottom portion is a step study that happens on a different night. I'm going to talk a little bit about that more a little bit later. But that's where we start digging in and dealing with some of the things from our past. And what we come to realize is that most of the issues that we have today stem from something that happened to us in our past. So if you flip that over and look on the other side of that, it talks about the 3 doors of Celebrate Recovery, which are the things I just discussed. So that large group, there's everything listed there that kind of entails that. Just from the time we start off with worship songs, just like we do kind of with church on Sunday. We read steps and principles every week. We give upcoming announcements about what's going on with the ministry. Every other week it divides through a lesson or a testimony. That's the way the course of the year goes. And all that is in print in this startup kit that you get. And you can assist you on every aspect of those lessons. And then the testimonies, you can get your own people in your ministry, your congregation, can get up and share their story. There's a script on how to write it. But that's why they give you some of the finer ones that they have to offer that you can play as you're getting established and getting going. We always read the Serenity Prayer at the end of every night. There's never an obligation to share. We encourage it highly, but when you're ready, you will talk. We don't force you to start talking until you're ready. That's where we're all gathered together, much like this room. We have men and women together. The large group is a session where everyone's together, getting the feeding of the lesson or testimony. And then when that ends, that meeting lasts about an hour, then we dismiss. And anyone that's new for the very first time, most of the CRs have a 101 group where they just tell you more about what to expect when you come back. If you've already been coming, then you go to the second portion, which is the open share group. So it's a large group, through the testimonies, through the worship, through the teaching of the lessons, we're getting encouragement that we can find the freedom that is being expressed to us through those teachings and lessons. So when we go to our open share groups, that's when we start talking about the issues that we're struggling with today, currently going on in our lives, the things I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with being nice to my wife all the time, even when she don't deserve it. I can talk about that. Say, you know what, I dropped the ball this week. I really messed up and I blew it. And I need to go back and apologize to my wife. So there's that strong accountability from being in the group. I confess my shortcoming. And by confessing it, that's when God really starts working on our hearts. So the process is very cool and very impactful when we openly do that. So some of the format of that open share group is it's issue specific. So we have groups for men's or women's chemical dependency, addiction, drugs, alcohol, nicotine. We have a group for men's sexual integrity, men that are struggling with integrity type issues. On the women's side, we have 5 going on currently at our Damascus campus. And some of the things that we're dealing with is relationship with food. Okay, oftentimes we don't think that's an issue, but if it's your issue, it's an issue. So it's not about drugs and alcohol, but all these groups are somewhat gender, we make them issue specific, so we're all sitting in the same room with kind of the same issue. Cool thing about Celebrate Recovery is that they always offer groups called A to Z, which is kind of a catch-all group. If we don't have a specific, if you're not an alcoholic, you're not dealing with food, let's just say, for example, you're dealing with gambling. We don't have a gambling group, which is people struggling with gambling. If they're going through financial ruin because of it, they need to get a grip on that, they would go to this A to Z group, which is for any issue that's not as specific that we have labeled, and the process works. You could really just do a bunch of A to Z groups and don't even need issue specific, and it would work. The beautiful thing of the specific is it gives you that genuine accountability with someone else who's struggling with exactly what you are. So that's why we have the specific groups. We talk about so many things in there, getting a sponsor, have an accountability partner. We follow guidelines every week, and we discuss them, we talk about them, we do a lot of repetitive stuff, and the guidelines is one of them. They are the safety net that keeps the ministry safe, keeps us from gossiping and talking about others, keeps us from getting off track and sidetracking others. So there's just a lot of key DNA factors to that, and in a little bit we're going to talk more about DNA. But that's the open share group. We go in and work on the stuff that's dealing with currently. Then the step study that we usually do on an alternate night, that's about a 2-hour meeting, and really there's a 4-book series that has been developed that we walk through questions and answers. We do additional Bible reading throughout the week. We come back and meet on a specific night designed, and we start talking about answering those questions that was in the booklet of each lesson that we're doing. And that's a very free thing, doing that. And really it's about diving back as far back as we can remember, discovering what it is that's going on in our life that caused us to do what we do today. Okay? If you look, not quite there. So, that's a lot about what that is. So, if you, again, there's teaching notes on that jump drive about how to lead these step studies. And really about what's in these books, the 4 participant guides that we have. And then there's also an overview, there's an extended one that calls The Journey Continues. There's even a little bit of stuff in there and that. So this jump drive and this startup kit will have everything you need to prepare, create the team, and get ready to launch a Celebrate Recovery ministry. So giving you the brief history of Celebrate Recovery and what resources are available to get you going, we'll now transition into some of the faith-based recovery church aspect. So let's start with the what. The what is Celebrate Recovery. I'm here promoting Celebrate Recovery Day. There's a lot of other ministries out there, but really we talk today about Celebrate Recovery, because this ministry sets itself apart from secular recovery in 2 ways. One is that its main focus is Jesus Christ and our higher power, our only higher power. And the second is that it's not limited to just one issue, such as Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, or even Sex Addicts Anonymous. It's not limited to just one. This is an umbrella ministry that works with any hurt, habit, or hang-up. And this gives the church the upper hand at helping others, which combines what outreach and evangelism is all about. So what's a hurt, habit, or hang-up? I'll give you an orange book if you'll turn to page 4. We'll look at that. So there it is. It clearly identifies. So this book we put together, we give this to all of our new participants, and it's for their pleasure to use and to look at when they go home. But we talk through some of this stuff. But just real briefly, to identify so we understand what that is. The hurt is the feeling of being hurt is an emotional reaction to another person's behavior, to a disturbing situation, such as abuse, divorce, grief, abandonment, codependency, relationship issues, or distress, etc. A habit, on the other hand, is an addiction to someone or something: alcohol, drugs, food, gambling, sex, shopping, smoking, etc. I love that it says someone or something. A lot of times we think of habits as something that we're hooked on, but interesting that we can be, other people can be our habits, and so a lot of times that's a light bulb going off in our mind moment where we start realizing it's more than just a substance. And then of course a hang-up are the negative mental attitudes that are used to cope with people or in adversity, such as anger, depression, fear, or forgiveness. So in this, what I've come to learn in my recovery journey, that because of my hurt as a child from an abandonment issue and emotional, physical abuse from my raging alcoholic father, okay, that created a hang-up in me about being abandoned and being angry and slipping into depression and then isolation and then not wanting to live, which led me to my habit of drugs and alcohol to ease the pain of all that hurt. So that's kind of how that journey of all 3 of those things can kind of marry together and give you a sense of, oh my gosh, my life's really messed up. My wife told me for 25 years I was a drug addict and alcoholic and I need to get sober. But when I quit using for 60 days, I was very disappointed because nothing changed. I was still angry and bitter and resentful. And when I got into step study and dug deeper and realized all that stuff stemmed from the abusive childhood that I had, and I was really just using the alcohol to mask all the pain. Yes, I had a drug and alcohol problem, but that wasn't the root source of what was going on in my life. It was the stuff I was exposed to as a child. So once I could identify it, then I was able to work through it and find the freedom and then start to get joy in my life. And that's where we want to get to. We want to get to where we have joy in our life. So now let's look at the why. Why we should have a Celebrate Recovery meeting at our church. I sense that we, the church, are standing peering out our church windows wondering who is going to fix the world's problems. We need to be part of that solution. Because we know that our world is broken. So whose responsibility is it to correct the issues that we're dealing with in the world? Is it the courts? Or the judges? Or the lawyers? The doctors? The police? And I say that it's not. I think we, the church, is best equipped to go out and be a light in the dark places and try to help shine a light for the people that are truly struggling to why this world is broken. I have a couple examples. 2017, we were doing an event in a town promoting, it was a Christian concert, we were promoting Celebrate Recovery, setting up our table, we were getting ready to do the event. One of the local police officers was there, was walking around, just having a sidebar conversation with one of our people from Celebrate Recovery, and he blatantly said, talking about our ministry, that people do not change. And the woman said, you need to meet my pastor. You need to hear his story. See, they've been tainted. I mean, they have to guard themselves, and they see time and time again where people just keep getting in trouble, keep getting back in jail, keep ODing, they keep narcaning them, okay? They lose that rooted faith that people will change. And I think we, the church, we can endure that. We can stay strong to stay rooted into helping people change and being part of that process by using a ministry like Celebrate Recovery. Another example is we do a prison ministry at the federal prison in Lisbon, Ohio, and we would go in there and do Celebrate Recovery inside to over 100 inmates before COVID shut us down. And as we was going in there, we endured the same thing with the prison chaplains and the prison guards. They have to guard themselves. They can't let their guard down and truly love them because so many inmates will take advantage of them. And if they look to get the upper hand on them, so they have to stay guarded and kind of have a hardened heart. So we can't expect those people to be the ones that are just pouring out the generous love onto these people that are hurting. Now the side note of that is, an overly codependent person, hence my wife, I mean, she would go to great lengths to rescue me. And that wasn't healthy for her. So there is an avenue of tough love, but yet nurturing and bringing people along. And we lead by example. And we stand beside them. And we take the journey with them through the hard times. So that's what this ministry has to offer. It doesn't necessarily have to be you, because the people from your church, and as you're going to see at the end of this performance, or we're going to do a little thing, but the people that will help do this as your ministry would grow and people come in and learn and get better equipped, they're the ones that's doing the footwork of this ministry. I mean, Pastor John's not in the trenches doing all this work. He does a good portion of it, but he's entrusted it to me, a recovering addict, a recovering alcoholic, and I built a team of other people around me that have their own issues, and we're thriving in our church, making this ministry work. And really Celebrate Recovery brings people into your church. Because if you don't have a relationship with Christ, they don't have a home church, likely when they meet him, and they will meet him. You can't not if you're hanging around long enough. It's like going to a barbershop, which I have not done recently, but hanging around a barbershop. If you hang around a barbershop long enough, chances are you're going to get a haircut. Okay? You hang around a recovery meeting long enough, chances are, here's what I tell people, Jesus Christ will meet you. Because we can make people come through the doors who aren't looking for Christ or looking for recovery. We say, you're welcome here, just come with an open mind. Know that most people are going to be talking about what Jesus Christ has done in their life. Because it's not Celebrate Recovery that's keeping me sober and clean. It's my relationship with Jesus Christ that is. Celebrate Recovery is a great tool to get people in that mindset where we're trusting Jesus Christ with all of our loves. That's the beautiful thing about Celebrate Recovery. So and then we just start serving it at the church. Okay? Several members here right now, part of this ministry, don't even attend Celebrate or Damascus Friends Church, but they attend our Celebrate Recovery. And they're here today and they're helping out. But I say, go serve at your church. Be a vital vessel at your church, but also they serve in our ministry because it's changed their lives. That's what we give back, and that's how Jesus Christ is moving us forward. I can't tell you the number of times that someone has brought a friend or a family member or a spouse to Celebrate Recovery because that person needed help. That's kind of our story. My wife brought me hoping it was going to fix me. The person that brings them usually sticks around longer or gets more out of it because they realize after being there, they got an issue that this can help with. And that's, again, anyone can benefit from Celebrate Recovery. Not everyone needs it, but everyone can benefit from working and applying the steps and principles that Celebrate Recovery has to have. It just makes us better people. It makes us identify whatever our shortcoming is, and we all have them. We all have them. They may not be the big thing that's going to get you incarcerated or dead, but nonetheless, a hang-up is a hang-up. And we all have them. And if we can identify them and start working on them, we become better people. And I think that's the beautiful. At the end of this whole thing, when I die, if they just say, well, he was a better person, then that, to me, is going to be a good thing. But I know there's so much more in store for me. I just know it. I believe it in my heart. So I want to talk about the purpose of Celebrate Recovery. So what we're going to do now is we're going to transition a little bit, and we're going to walk and look at page 3. Let's hit that real quick because that is the nutshell, the purpose in a nutshell. Well, it says the purpose of Celebrate Recovery is to come together and celebrate God's healing power in our lives through the 12 steps and the 8 recovery principles. This experience allows us to be changed. We open the door by sharing our experiences, our strengths, and hopes with one another. In addition, we become willing to accept God's grace in solving the problems in our lives. By working and applying these biblical principles, we begin to grow spiritually. We become free from our addictive, compulsive, and dysfunctional behaviors. That is the purpose of Celebrate Recovery. That's the purpose of Jesus Christ. So Celebrate Recovery is lined up 100% smack dab with walking with Jesus. So as we look at the purpose, what makes Celebrate Recovery successful? So you have a handout for the 7 keys. Does anyone need a pen? I have pens if you need one. Raise your hand. I want to go through those just somewhat quickly. So leadership training is the first fill-in. Leaders need to always be learning more. Once you stop learning, you stop leading. People will follow if they are led well. Okay, it's often been said that everything rises and falls on the leader. So we encourage our leadership to be authentic, to be transparent. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The second one is senior pastor support. The senior pastor support makes it acceptable for people to be in recovery. It shows your church that it's a safe place to express pain when your pastor supports this ministry, and also when he supports it, it breaks the barriers that recovery is just for addicts and alcoholics, because it's worth so much more than that. So I'm inviting our pastors, Pastor John, our senior pastor, to come and share for a couple minutes of his vision. I want you to hear his vision of how Celebrate Recovery enhances both the pastor and the prisoners. Pastor John, thank you.
Hey, thank you, Randy. And if you don't know, Randy has moved from a hopeless dope dealer to a dopeless hope dealer, and that's what he is. Hey, Bob, is Bob in here? Bob Owen? Bob, would you set the timer? Because I need the timer set about 2 minutes. 2 minutes or so. I don't want to spend too long. He asked me to just share a little bit. It'll change your church, Celebrate Recovery. There's 4 things that matter in every church, and every church has got to get a Celebrate Recovery will force you to do these 4. Number 1 is the lost get saved. Lost people need to come to Jesus. Every church has to have new people coming to Jesus. Celebrate Recovery will make sure people are coming to Jesus. The saved, they get pastored. And it's not the pastor doing the pastoring, but saved people need to be pastored. They've never been pastored before, they have no clue about it, but they got to pastor. The pastor get discipled, and disciples change the world. And we have 12 steps. I just said them in 4. We have the 8 principles. I just said them in 4. But everything about Celebrate Recovery does those 4 things. We could put it a little bit differently. Know God, find freedom, discover purpose, make a difference. That's what this is all about. And then what we do is we try to think about, in our church, we try to track people. Where are they? Where are they in their recovery? And really, let's just face it, recovery is code talk for spiritual growth. You put a sign out there, come grow spiritually, everybody will avoid you like the plague. You put a sign out there that says recovery, people show up and say, I need recovery. It's just a bait on the hook. And I would just encourage you to really consider how your church helps people to know God, find freedom, discover their purpose, and make a difference in the world. And that's what Celebrate Recovery has done, and that's what Celebrate Recovery has taught me. And I think every pastor would get behind those 4 things. I think every church member would get behind those 4 things, and that's exactly what we want to do. And I hope your church can do that. And I just might mention, these guys, we have a team that'll help you. We'll help any church, anywhere, anytime. And I think that's true, Randy, that we have maybe started somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 that are still functioning Celebrate Recoveries around the area. And we just want to help churches to get a Celebrate Recovery. Because you put recovery on your church, people will say, I'm coming, and you'll get there. Thank you, Bob. My time's up. And Randy, back to you.
Thank you, Pastor John. I appreciate that. I'm going a little bit longer than I wanted to. Got a lot I want to get to, so we're going to jump right into the next one, which is the curriculum. They give you everything you need, but we also, it requires the DNA that you follow the curriculum. I showed you the starter booklet. They have written their own Bible. Okay, I mean, there's not such thing as a bad Bible. The cool thing about the Celebrate Recovery Bible is it goes hand in hand with the ministry. It walks right along with the step study journey that you're going to take. Okay, in the back of it, it has every one of the lessons that we do written as a devotion, a 30-day devotion. Okay, and so it highlights the steps and principles in this Bible. They're highlighted for you as you're walking through them and going through your journey of recovery. Passages will jump out at you because they're highlighted to do that. And so it has character studies in it. My wife always says, we think sin just started, recovery, addiction just started in our era, in our time. When did recovery really start? When did sin first begin? And so we have a dispute about this because she says Adam, and I say Eve. but sin has been around since forever. Okay, I mean, she gave him the apple. I mean, I don't. But anyway, sin has been around forever. But it pulls these out as character studies in this Bible. And so we're reading, we can see how Moses or how Abraham, it's applicable to what this recovery ministry is all about. And so that's the most important, but they've written devotions for this ministry to help people when they're stepping into recovery, just aid them in their journey. It just goes on and on and on, and that's part of the stuff. Worship is a key part, it's a key of this, because this is a major difference between Christ-centered and secular recovery programs. Worship starts our meeting. It opens our hearts to the Holy Spirit, and it puts our focus where it should be, on the one and only true high power, Jesus Christ. Somebody can come into a meeting on meeting night, on the drive there. They may have had the worst day of their life at work. They may have gotten cut off driving there, been road raging with someone, just absolutely having a horrible day. And if you can walk in and spend 15 minutes just worshiping, it just tends to wash away the troubles of the day, and it prepares your heart for what you're about to hear through the lesson or the testimony. So that's why worship is such a key part of this ministry. Then it talks about new groups, where it says build around individual needs and recovery issues. New groups act like the blood transfusion of a recovery ministry. This is true because we start out with A to Z group, everybody comes, and we get a bunch of people with a gambling issue. We can start that specific group, and then people just keep coming. The more groups you have to offer, gamblers are talking to other gamblers, the sexual guys are talking to their shortcoming issues with other people, and you're just inviting more people to come and find recovery. You're inviting more people to come into the house of the Lord. You're inviting more people to come into their relationship with Jesus Christ. So as the ministry grows and you open up these more additional groups, it just invites more people to come. And finally, it talks about outreach, where Celebrate Recovery is an outreach opportunity, connect with non-believers in our community. We go set up table anywhere we can. First Friday, the Friday night event, Downtown Alliance. We go to any event where they'll let us set up our table. We hover around it. Our table's out here. Please go check it out. And we just love having conversation with people about, they'll say, what is Celebrate Recovery? Opens the door for us to start talking about that, but also we can get to talking about Jesus real quick. And that's the key, get to talk about Jesus as quickly as possible. So that's what our groups are about. The process itself, what I want to do, take a moment. Laura, you got a minute to come up, and she's going to tell just briefly about best practice at DNA and whatever it was she just whispered in my ear that I didn't hear. But yeah.
Okay, so you have this handout here, and it's actually the DNA of Celebrate Recovery. All right? And so you just need to read over this, because this is the only thing that you need to do to get it started. All right? You need to proclaim, number one, is that Jesus Christ is your higher power. Because when you go to secular recovery, you can have a higher power as anything. All right? But when we recognize that Jesus Christ is the higher power, then we know who is actually giving us the source of our recovery. All right? Number two is all the curriculum that he talked about. Okay? And he said, we have to have curriculum. So there's all that curriculum that's available to you. They even have a sermon series that our church has done based on the book Life's Healing Choices. Okay? So literally, you could do this 8 weeks before you started. Your pastor could. And that would take people then. We've done it as a small group. Because when people can start identifying that we all have issues. Okay? I mean, I didn't have any issues because he was my problem.
Still is.
Right. All right. But really, I'm the one that's suffering the more because my codependency, my fear of rejection, fear of failing, is my problem. Okay, and that is 90% of your people in your congregation are that way, and that is what has helped me to rely on my Jesus Christ to walk with me and not worry about what he is doing. All right. Number three is group-based. All groups are gender-specific. So right now we're in a room with all of the gender, but in reality is when you go into the small groups, then you're safe because you're women with women and men with men. So you need to keep that. That's the third thing. It needs to be face-to-face. They are investigating, some meetings are online, but really face-to-face meeting takes us to a new level because you can talk to somebody on the phone, but face-to-face you can read their body language, you can tell if they're not telling the truth. So face-to-face is crucial. And then this ministry is under the church. You will not find this ministry out in a Salvation Army. You will not find it that does not have the authority of the church. All policies, everything that goes with Celebrate Recovery is based because your church is the leader of it. They're the supporter of it, and that's what follows it. Okay? So Celebrate Recovery National doesn't tell you if you can have people that are gay in your ministry or leaders of that. No, it's your church policy that does. Okay? So this is a ministry of your church. And number 6, I said that. So so those are just your 6 things that you need to worry about. I want to go over this. You said the fill-ins. I want to make sure everybody got the fill-ins on the first page. Leadership is the first one. Yeah. Senior pastor is the second one. Support. 3 is curriculum. Yeah. Worship is the 4th. Fellowship is the 5th. Fellowship, yep. And new groups, and then outreach. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you were going through them quickly, and I was like, I don't think they were getting it.
So that's what makes her. She makes me look good. She makes me look good. So the process is this. First thing you do is you prepare. You build the team. You get your volunteers, and then you train. The second thing you do is you practice, and then you perform what you're practicing. If you're going to have a live band, they need to be practicing. If you're going to have a cafe team, they're going to need to be practicing, setting up. It's going to be different on recovery night than it is on Sunday morning church. Something's going to be different. So you run through all this stuff. Your leadership team is practicing their role and also getting comfortable up front speaking, doing lessons, and maybe testimonies. And the third thing is really the process is from the pulpit. If if your senior pastor is getting up and talking about it during Sundays leading up to it, maybe going through the Life Healing Choices, that's going to create and engage a lot of your parishioners to be part of that ministry. So all these things lead to changed lives, changed families, and an ongoing spiritual journey that will benefit the church. The church will grow. It will pick up servants and volunteers.
Right.
CR is a leadership factory. When someone cleans up their act and is walking with the Lord, they want to find ways to give back, and they do it joyfully. As my pastor always said, CR is code for spiritual growth. He just talked about that. So in closing, I've invited a few of my friends to come and display some of the freedom that they're experiencing in their life. I'm going to ask you to come right here in front of the podium because we're being taped, and then show your deal, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. So thank you. Of course, it's got to be money. So that's just a little glimpse of it. Look, it's not, again, I can't emphasize enough, it's not just about drugs and alcohol. When people hear the word recovery, they immediately think that that's what it's about, and this is really about so much more. It's about any life, hurt, habit, or hang up, and we all have them. And it's also about our walk with Jesus Christ, who is the ultimate solution, and Celebrate Recovery drives all that together, and hope comes through him. So thank you for coming. Thank you. Look, my team is available. We're going to go out and be at our table. We would love to talk to you more. If you have any questions, I want to do Q&A, but I got to get out of here for the next group. But at our table, we will engage in conversation with you as much as you would like. Thank you again for coming.